Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's late Torah and Chill. And as with all the other videos, I think it's appropriate to start with, I'm sorry for the technical difficulties, and let's just get right into it. Okay, so we're going to start off with a question that I was forced to deal with, and so now you got to deal with, and then we're going to hopefully be able to answer that question. So, Baruch Hashem, I had the zechut to serve in the IDF. And in the IDF, what they do is they take in the neighborhoods and for 1 week give this educational courses. They give over these educational courses to try and, get people on board with what the ideology of the IDF is. And the IDF is the Israeli Defense. And what they actually have are these little pamphlets that are called Tzahal, or the ideology of IDF, and in it there are listed a bunch of different values that are core values you want to have and understand. And basically what they did was they took a bunch of us, a group of us, and they gave us these pamphlets and told us, look over these values. One you think is the best one. The one that if you had to pick one of these values, which is the one that you take? So I'll go over a few of them now, 5 out of 10 values that they had. And I want you to just think about, which one would you pick? Because it's a pretty tough choice. So the first value, it says, is human life. The value of human life, to make sure that, you respect everyone and you value every human life. And you're very careful with, when you're given orders to do anything, very careful to make sure that there's no one gets hurt. Number 2 is responsibility. Right? You're responsible for yourself and everything you do. Number 3 is camaraderie. You have to get along with everyone. Number 4 is discipline, which understandable. Number 5 is personal example. So if you had to pick one of these values that you think is the most important, a difficult choice, but again, you have the value of human life, you have responsibility, you have camaraderie, you have discipline, and you have personal example. Okay. Now let's get into the Parsha. So this week's Parsha is Parshat Vayetze, and it deals with Yaakov. Yaakov is the third of the Avot, and up until now we've been dealing with the first. It's really the one that they tell us is the relatable one, or the perfect of. Why? When we look at Abraham's character trait was that of Chesed. That was the character trait that Abraham embodied. And we see that in all of his actions. We see that he's always going out, inviting people over, trying to help everyone he can, and being really big Kiddush Hashem through Chesed. Yitzchak's character trait was that of Gvura. So that Yitzchak did not lead such an easy life. He had a very difficult life. And despite all of that, he stayed strong and really stuck to his values, stuck to his guns, and nothing broke him. So Yitzchak became the paradigm of strength. Yaakov, however, is given a very interesting paradigm. He's given a very interesting title or theme or character trait, and that is Tiferet. So what is Tiferet? I looked up Tiferet in the dictionary, and it came across as beauty or glory or splendor or magnificence. All these very lofty, interesting words, but not very vague. What does that mean? These are all very subjective things. Whereas Avram is given, kindness, and Yitzchak is given strength. We have Yaakov, which is given this fluffy term, which we don't necessarily know what it means. And the general interpretation of that word is basically harmony. Yaakov represents harmony. What harmony between Avram and Yaakov? Yaakov is the of that we're supposed to relate to most. He was the guy that took this extreme chesed. We can't go and just invite people out in the streets into our houses for meals. We can, but it's just impractical. And we can't be that never bends and can withstand anything and take it all and not change. Those are very extreme places to be and very hard to live that way. However, Yaakov, being like Yaakov, knowing when to be a rock and when to be kind, this is something we can do. Okay, so now this week's parsha gives us insight into Yaakov. And how do you know someone? How do you really see what someone embodies when they're in a time of crisis? And good for us, bad for him, this week's parsha puts Yaakov in a few very perilous situations. So I'd like to focus on 2 perilous situations particular, one of which Yaakov is put into physical peril when he's in spiritual danger. Okay, so the first example that we have in this week's parsha of Yaakov being in danger is Yaakov. Is the parsha starts off the physical danger that Yaakov is just run away from home, has to escape from his brother trying to murder him. He can't take anything with him. He has nowhere to return to, and he's going to his brother's house, who is known to be a very evil man, a big cheat and a liar and a thief and just a bad person. And this is the only option he has left. And he has nothing, and he's literally in the situation where he's sleeping on the ground, surrounded by rocks, which he puts around him to protect himself. That's it. He's got nothing. And then in the second case, the spiritual peril in the house of Lavan. So we're going to start now with the story of Lavan and what happens there, and then we're going to come back to the rocks and being on the ground in the woods. So in Lavan's house, what happens? He gets to Lavan's house, and he's totally out of his element, right? He's, again, just run away and has nothing going for him. And what happens? All of a sudden, Lavan, it says in the parsha that the man became exceedingly prosperous, and he attained surplus of flocks, maidservants and servants, camels and donkeys. So basically, Yaakov arrives to Lavan's house, and what happens? Of success. All of a sudden, raising sheep his whole life and cheating and doing everything his whole life. All of a sudden, Yaakov arrives, and it's just sheep everywhere, like explosion of sheep, so many sheep, and riches and wealth and all this good. And the question is why? Why did Lavan deserve this? And in fact, there's a Gemara in Masechet Brachot that states that if you surround yourself with tzaddikim, you too will receive bracha and will receive blessing and abundance of good. And the question is, why is that fair? Why is it that I can be a millionaire jerk who does whatever he wants to be successful, does whatever he wants, and then at the end of the day, all they do, is sponsor some tzaddik to come sleep at my penthouse apartment, and I'm going to benefit from that. That doesn't seem like a very right thing. And basically, this question was asked Rav Kook. Rav Kook was the first Meshka of Israel. And Rav Kook explains in his explanation on the Gemara there that there's not some voodoo, magic jibijibis that, Yaakov came and voila, magic and everyone's happy and successful. It's actually a very logical explanation. What Rav Kook proposes is that when Lavan lived the kind of life where, he takes this thing, he takes that thing, gets rid of the other thing, nothing too important. It was just about getting more and more and being successful. And this person, Yaakov, comes into his life, and Yaakov cherishes everything that he has. Yaakov treats everything as if God gave it to him as a gift, because that's what basically everything he had was. Yaakov was in a place where I can't go home. I don't have the luxuries that most people have. I'm going to cherish everything I get. And automatically, just seeing someone do that has an effect. Lavan just seeing Yaakov take care of the things that, he didn't necessarily value before, all of a sudden he had much more of an appreciation. And even though cheating, evil person, he didn't just maybe he stole a little bit less, he was inspired by seeing Yaakov act the way he did to act a little better. And in acting better, trying to be a better person, even if it was only a little bit, he merited to have this success. So there we have Exhibit A of Yaakov in a crisis and how he handles it. He stays true to his values. He keeps the Torah, keeps the mitzvot, and in the end, actually ends up, inspiring and everybody wins. Okay, that's example number one. Now we look at the first case that we had mentioned about the physical peril. So Yaakov is outside in the woods. Literally, the only thing between him and a wolf or a bear is a couple of stones. And what is he thinking about? What would you think about? What would I think about? So I'm lying on the ground right now, and I have nothing, nowhere to go, and don't eat me. I hope I live it through. The animals will come upon me and try and eat me. I hope that if an animal does come upon me, I'll be able to escape and tell the story pretty cool. But in my head, but not like God, not saying, if you're thinking about God, the only thing you're thinking about is God, don't let me die here. But meanwhile, when you look at the dream that Yaakov has, it's the famous dream of the ladder, where it says, I'll read it inside. Yaakov departed from Beersheba and went towards Haran. He encountered the place and spent the night there because of the sun that set. He took from the stones of the place which he arranged around his head, and he was, and a ladder was set earthward, and its top reached heavenward. And behold, angels of God were ascending and descending on it. So here you have this guy with no home, running away because his brother wants to kill him, and he's dreaming about angels. What does this say about Yaakov? And what is this dream? So the Ram actually asks the question on this, and he asks, what is this dream? We see angels going up and down a ladder, but that doesn't really make a lot of sense because angels' places are in heaven. And if you're going to tell me that angel, okay, the angel has a mission to do and be on earth, then you would come down to earth and go back up. But why this up and down? Why is it lots of angels going up and down? And the Ran explains that these angels were actually representing the idea of a tzaddik. That a tzaddik is somebody and heavenward, but then come back down and bring back inspiration down to earth. And that's the goal of a tzaddik. And so what Yaakov is seeing in his dream is this up and down of a tzaddik bringing inspiration from above and below. And in fact, many commentaries expound, it's not just some tzaddik or tzaddikim, but it's you and me and everyone. We're all supposed to be, life is not just one big spiritual roller coaster, uphill roller coaster. It comes, and you have time for you to feel it, and sometimes where you just don't. But the point of what our goal should be is to go up in those moments, internalize that inspiration, and then when we come back down, maintain that, keep strong using it. That's the story of the ladder, and that's the message. So that's what Yaakov's dreaming about, right? He's dreaming about tzaddikim going up and down, bringing inspiration down below. And I was talking with a friend of mine in interfaith discussion this week, Queens College, and we were talking about how some religions have monks and some don't. That makes more sense because our religion, we don't have monks, and when people ask me, because we're not monks, we're tzaddikim. Monk's job is to be a purely spiritual being, and the tzaddik's job is to go out and help people and tachlis, and to be right here, right now, what needs to be done. Now we see these to be Yaakov, and to return back to these two situations where Yaakov had a struggle. And the question I asked at the beginning, what is the most important thing? What is your value? So responsibility, important. Human life, important. But the one that I picked that relayed all of them was the personal example. And I think that's why Yaakov is considered the most relatable of. When you have this idea that you want to set an example, that you have to be someone that people will look up to, all of a sudden everything you do becomes better. Everything you have to do, you want to do best. So when you look at Yaakov, when he was in the comfort of when you look at him at Lavan's house, you see that he had a lot against him. He had bad influences and a bad environment, and coming from a very emotionally unstable place, having to run away from home. But he still managed to stand strong and stick to his values and lead to the point where even Lavan Harasha, an evil person, was able to benefit from it. And then if you want to say his family, at least he had riches. Look at him before that in the woods where he had no one and nothing, and still, how did he lead his life? He didn't think to himself, no one's watching me, I'm just gonna cower here and pray that I don't die. No, he still kept his head held high and always thought towards Hashem and towards holiness. I'm going to end off with a quick story, and that I think really shows how far an example can go. I heard this story from a friend of mine, institute names, but they are not the real names of the people in the story. So there are these two friends from high school. We're going to call one of them Yaakov for this point, and we're going to call one of them Shmuel. I'm sorry if anyone has these names. It's not you in the story. So Yaakov and Shmuel grew up together in the same community, and Shmuel was this really cool, was a more cool, open kid, as often happens in these situations. He was more cool and sociable, and Yaakov was more. Shmuel was more social. Yaakov was more quiet to himself, and basically just circumstance. They're not the same personality type really, but they became friends and they stuck together. And eventually comes time, they grow up and they finish middle school and they're about to go to high school. And they both decide that they're going to they individually decide to go to the same high school. Great, that's so cool. And as they get to high school, Shmuel, the cool one, begins his circle of friends, and Yaakov, doesn't really go that way. He doesn't really get involved, but they still maintain that friendship. And as high school goes on, 9th, 10th, 11th grade, because Yaakov and Shmuel were hanging out, and Shmuel was hanging out with all his cool friends. Eventually, Yaakov became kind of a member of the group. He was a little bit more quiet to himself. So as high school progressed, they began to have a little more fun and go out and party a little bit more. And while the crew was very into it, and even Shmuel was very into it, Yaakov, the more quiet one, he didn't enjoy it as much. And so he would go with them for some time, but he always. And then one of the members of the group invitation to this party that's happening in a little bit of a shady, and he gets the whole crew, and he's like, all right guys, let's go, it's gonna be a crazy party, I heard it's gonna be amazing, nothing like we've ever been to before, we should totally go. And everyone's like, yeah, let's do it. And when they're talking about it, everyone's in on it, but when the time comes, so Yaakov and Shmuel are together at the house, and they come to pick them up, and all of a sudden, last minute, Shmuel says to Shmuel, I really don't. And Shmuel's like, what do you mean? We already said, yeah, let's go, they're outside. And Yaakov says, I'm sorry, I know the people that invited us, and I know where this party's taking place, and it's going to be crazy and awesome, but it's not, I don't think we should be doing this right now. So, yeah, I'm almost like, I can't believe you're doing this to me now. Come on, how could you? But fine, whatever, I get it. Okay, I'm going to go without you. And he goes and gets in the car, and they drive off. Next day at school, none of the kids are there. And Yaakov was wondering, what happened to Shmuel? And there's this whole buzz in school. And they tell Shmuel, what happened? A bunch of kids met at this party last night, and there was a shootout. There was a drive-by shooting there, where someone came and just shot a ton of bullets, and we don't know what happened. So he's freaking out. He's trying to get in touch, and he can't. And finally, Yaakov calls him. Shmuel calls Yaakov, and he says, "You won't believe what happened last night. Basically, I got in the car with them and we drove to the party, and it was crazy. It was amazing. There was live DJ, great food, great people. It was a party. And as we got there, I was thinking about what you said to me, that maybe this one's a little out of our league and we shouldn't be doing this right now. And I thought that you were right. And as soon as I got out of the car, I ordered a cab, and I told the other guys, listen, I think I'm gonna go. And they were upset at me, and I felt bad about doing it, but I did it anyways. And 5 minutes later, a car drove by, and he said, if you wouldn't have stepped out, we would have been there together. I think that when I heard the story also, it was a very powerful story. And I think that this is the message that Yaakov and this week's Parsha is supposed to, the message that we're supposed to take away from Yaakov and this week's Parsha, that if we want to have the most impact and be the best people we can be, we should live our lives always thinking, how to act in the ideal situation. How do I set the example for the best way to do things, even in the least good circumstances? And if we strive to accomplish this, I think that it will only add good to our lives and lives of everyone around us. Have a Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm looking forward to seeing you.